I have had no paranormal experiences.
None
I
at
am
all.
a paranormal skeptic. I don't believe in any kind of non-material dimension.
How about seeing a weird thing in the sky, like a
Like a UFO?
UFO, I
No, I
guess?
wish. I wish. I've been waiting for the mothership to come for me for a long time, and they haven't. Which
And how about these lovely two women here?
I mean, my concept of how the universe works doesn't explains most things that I've seen, even maybe if some of them were non-standard or what some might consider unexplained. I haven't experienced anything that I can't really explain.
Nothing at all. Not even a very weird nightmare experience, like a weird dream. We thought like, uh,
Well, I mean, I've had some dreams where I think that, and then later some like seem like almost deja vu stuff later, but it's explicable within my model of the universe and dimensionality and stuff.
I see.
I find that most things make sense if you can conceptualize them extemporally, like outside of time. Trying to sequence things and sequence causality in one direction is where things creates things that are unexplained or difficult to explain if you're locked in that perspective.
Mm. Damn, girl. Okay.
Angeline, any paranormal experiences?
A lot. I think I grew up in a lot of that stuff, so but then again, like I grew up in religion and I was a kid who'd come home and there'd be like people laying on the floor like shaking and like speaking in tongues and all that crazy
Oh my
stuff
God!
and casting out demons, and that was my world. Like
And that
I
was
just
no.
like walk over people and go up to my room and like it was kind of crazy. So I grew up in that kind of world where so when I came out of religion and all that, I had to try and figure out what the heck, like make sense of all that too. So I did a lot of research in that area, but I do believe in the paranormal, but it's different, I guess. It's not like I'm not very woo woo per se. I know that it's like what we create kind of thing, you know? Um, I don't know. I've seen it all. And I used to do like street healing and stuff, and I have seen things that I can't explain, but I try to make sense of it in my head in a more logical way, I guess.
Okay, so you don't see it exactly as something that's just in our minds?
I think we're very powerful with our beliefs. What we
Uh-huh.
believe is, you know, I think we can create. We're bigger creators than we realize, like with what we think and believe. Do
Yeah,
I
I
think it's,
agree.
you know, those experiences that seem supernatural, I think, is the power of our beliefs, I guess. You know, like you can create a haunting experience or a healing experience or whatever if you like have a really powerful belief around it, just because we're creators of our experience.
Are there
So do you
ghosts?
so do you believe there, yeah, ghosts, or maybe is that an experience that we create with our minds? Or dreams?
Well, I
I know
heard
dreams
someone
are, but
explain it like this. Like, let's say there's a house down the street and there's like a bunch of shootings and the cops come and everybody's talking about it and the sirens are going off and then they have the place like sealed off with tape and everybody's talking about murders there and then it starts to pass away and everyone talks about it being haunted and all these people add this like beliefs and energy and blah blah blah, and then you go in all psyched up about all these things and you feel all the stuff that everybody's putting towards that, and you can go in and have an experience. Does it make it real?
yeah, I understand what you
You
mean.
know?
Yeah, your mind gets loaded with that kind of information, and You project it onto the location, right? I think that's what you mean. Like,
We can create an experience that's,
yeah,
you
you
know,
go.
with strong
A
beliefs.
haunted location is only haunted because we create the haunting,
We do.
because it's known as haunted. I
Yeah.
get what you mean. Yeah, well, I think that's a very intelligent way of thinking.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's true, but I think it's cool.
I know I used to have a lot of weird things happen, and then when I stopped, like, be like, it got to a point, like, because my world, everyone believed in demons. Everything's a demon, right? Like everything was a freaking demon. Oh, the car broke down. It's a demon. Like it was just retarded, right? Like,
Oh,
I,
were you
and
raised? You were raised religious then, maybe, or
yeah, so I was scared of
Hmm,
everything. So to get out of that
yeah.
was awesome because I was scared of everything. I just thought everything, any like, and some people, some, not all people, but a lot of people in churches are just crazy. It's like, oh, if you accidentally do a yoga pose, you could like accidentally let in a demon, right? It's like it was the dumbest thing. So when I went to um when I was taking courses for like theology and history and all that kind of stuff, you kind of learn where it started and takes out all the fear, and you don't, like it's just a buildup, and people don't understand it, and they make all these woo woo things out of it. But now I know it's not what we're told. Um, but I still saw weird things, and I was gonna say I used to experience like things, like weird things, like I don't know, things moving or whatever, like the weird stuff. But now I was like, well, what was that? And I was like, well, I honestly think that we're powerful. Like when we believe something enough, we're powerful to create an experience and believe it. Whether it was something outside of us, I don't think so, to be honest.
No, you don't believe in any otherworldly creatures or beings that could interfere
Because
or
as soon as
scare
I
us, or
stopped believing that, it stopped happening.
yeah,
So,
exactly. If you're
right?
not scared of it and you don't worry about it, it doesn't exist, right? So it is probably our mind then. I think you're right.
Well, what's your position on all of this, or what's your background or experience?
I don't know. I'm just very interested in the topic and people's views on it and people's experience about it.
Have you had any of your own?
Yeah, I've seen some weird stuff. Yeah.
What's the
Uh,
most interesting story you've had or you've elicited in your quest for data points?
well, when I was a kid, I went to my uncle's farm with my family, and it was just a regular visitation. They went for tea and crumpets, let's call it that, just the Dutch way of that. And I got bored and I went outside, and it was a very secluded farm. But I saw a black cylinder in the sky on my own. A black cylinder just floating in the sky. It was just there, and it floated off, but that was before the time of drones. That didn't exist back then.
Hmm.
How old were you again?
Right now or back then?
Back then?
Oh, I was like 10 or something.
So
What
do
do you
you
make
lean?
of it?
I don't think I mean, like, when you're 10, you're not on drugs, right?
Right.
I mean, I haven't seen a ghost, and I don't really believe in ghosts, but there's definitely weird phenomena I have been seeing. uh, with other people that have seen things move, like the lady just explained. Uh, Stuff like that does happen. So maybe there is a truth to that, right? Maybe there is some energetic, spiritual thing going on there.
I do believe in energy. Like I know Jeff, like you have a lot of questions around that, but I do
Yeah, I don't
believe
know what it
in.
is.
And I like to use the word life giving energy. So like the thing that gives things life. So like when something's alive, something is
Vivos.
making us alive, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I consider insects alive, and I feel bad for killing an insect, even accidentally, because I think there's something in there, in that creature, right? I think we're
um,
all the same kind of creature, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I feel bad about killing the bugs too. I usually just throw them outside.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Yeah, good job. I respect that.
I think like the more we allow life giving energy, the more and we can block it. And often, if we're like sick or whatever, depressed, whatever, we're often like not allowing as much of that life giving energy to come through us, I guess.
But
So
what in your opinion is that life generating energy coming from?
just energy, just whatever it is
Just,
that gives us life. Some people call it source, I guess.
Do you differentiate
yeah.
between life, the sort of life energy like vivos, and like a spiritual energy?
Can you say
Or
that
you
first part again?
vivos? It's just Greek. Like that's what I think of when I think of life giving energy. That would be sort of like the energy that animates. Would be that when I hear life giving, that's what I. And then there's like sort of the it's it can be differentiated. In certain texts, it would be differentiated from like trying to think what they call it. It's not spiritus, but it's like you could describe it would be described as of spiritus. Um, but yeah, kind of like you call like soul energy or the spiritual energy being different than the enlivening um, or animating energy.
Animating energy? I don't know. I've never really used any of those terms, so I'm not really sure how to answer that.
But when you say life giving, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing is the animating energy, the
I don't
energy
know, just the
that
thing that
life
makes
runs
things
off of.
alive. I don't know how else to explain it.
And then you would
Or
have
alive.
you can even split it three ways. You can have like that, then you can have like the intellectual energy, right, like consciousness, and then you can have sort of the soul energy, like
But
the source.
why
That's
call it energy? Like what
spiritual,
just
like
if it's life force and if it's intellect
So it's the
and if it's
it's
closest.
just
emotion
a
or if it's
word that a lot of people are
why do people
familiar with, I
attach the
guess.
concept of energy to it?
Because I think
I
it's the
guess
closest analogy to understand it systemically, right? Like the way we kind of understand the way energy works kind of fits the pattern of how
Oh,
these
because it's
things.
not material.
like
Yeah, like
there's
I
things
think
that
it's a
generate
useful analogy or
yeah,
the
like
default one. Maybe not the best one, but it's the most commonly understood analogy. Analogous.
electricity is a generation of generating energy or heat would be things
And
generating energy to create fire
as
or like right so I don't know it's you could call it like electricity or you could call
But
it
aren't we
magnets
all?
generate energy right like you can't see it but you can kind of sense between magnets you can feel electricity but you can't see it but you can certainly get that by it you can like there's different things like and that's why I
Well,
just
that
say
makes
the
okay as
thing
an
like
analogy. It makes sense, but then I
yeah
don't know what the other term they're analogizing it to is when they talk about like
I mean,
feeling
energy is a
someone's energy or.
is a thing that we understand to exert force.
Or not exert, like, I don't know, is turning on a light energy exerting force? Like, or is it just making it work?
Well, it's producing it's causing it to emit photons, so it is a force in the sort of
But
in the
what, like,
sense of
so
the
earlier
physics.
today we were talking about like reading people's energy or people having different energy. Like,
That's
how
a
does
little
that translate
different.
into
Yeah, I'm talking a little
force or?
different, I guess. I'm talking about just the thing that makes us alive, I guess. But energy
It's
like
such a
that is
fuzzy
just
concept.
healing stuff, I think. That's just a way of describing it.
Yeah, but consider like a radio. A radio, you can smash a radio, right? You can smash it to pieces.
Hmm.
Uh, and the radio signal will still be there, right? The radio doesn't. The radio signal is not the radio,
Right.
and in that same way, I think the human body can be destroyed, but the radio signal or whatever humans really are is still there, right?
I like, you know, we could be like antennas that pick up on different things out there, right? Like the radio. And we can tune in our focus to different things, I
Yeah.
guess, Like we can choose where we're tuning into. I know, like, I know it sounds weird, but like, and I don't really understand it. Like, I don't know if I was picking up on. Okay, so I've seen people on the other side for other people, and I didn't even know what was going on at the time. But I just like would sense something. Like once I was in line up with a lady and I could sense that there was like a young girl standing beside her, and I was like, she has like this length hair, and I was really nervous because I was just starting to experience this stuff, so I was really nervous to say it, and I didn't really think it through because it was a Christian lady who like freaked out after because they think that stuff's demonic. But I was just like standing there. I'm like, I just sensed this and that and whatever. And at first she was all excited and she pulled out a postcard and she said, "My daughter just died from cancer and this is the last piece of art she made." And you're describing her exactly. And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess that she just wants you to know she's like here with you." And if I think about it now, then it was amazing. I was picking up on it everywhere I went. I could pick up if someone had a dog that passed away, I felt like it was with them or whatever.
Yeah.
And now I
Yeah.
think maybe it was just, again, I'm going to use the energy word, but maybe like if somebody is carrying like if you're really sensitive to that stuff, if someone's carrying the energy of that person already, you could be picking up on it. Like, mm, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've just
So,
always
so
had a weird
you
thing
mean
like
you're kind
that.
of projecting it then because you know this person and you care about this person and you project, yeah, the energy of their loss, the person they miss or
Well,
the pet they
or
miss,
maybe
and
it was something very close and familiar to them, and
yeah.
somehow you kind of pick up on that. Like, I don't know.
But
Like,
how did you know it was a little girl?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's the mission. That's what I'm
I could
trying to.
I could just feel her, and people ask, "Can you
What
see
does
it?"
a
And I was
little
like, "I
girl
couldn't
feel like,
see."
though? Like,
Well, it have you ever felt like someone was standing next to you
um,
Yes,
and
I
then they
have.
were,
I don't
right?
know,
But you
maybe.
didn't
But
like
I wouldn't be able to tell the
see them?
gender of the person, I don't think.
I think I think honestly to me, I think everybody can do it. Everybody. I don't think there's nobody who can't do it. But I mean, you have to be open to it and kind of probably takes practice. And for me, I was just high flying at the time because I was so excited to not be afraid of so many things anymore. And we were taught to be afraid of that stuff. And I had like, I had so many people in my life pass away. So I'll tell you that some of the supernatural stuff I can't explain was just from all the deaths in my life. that didn't make sense. And the things I kept seeing from people who passed away who were supposed to be going to the bad place, and I would see complete opposite and get messages that didn't make sense and that nobody else would know. And it was like they were trying to tell me like that the whole fear thing was BS. Like, and I don't know. And I just was really high flying. I was really excited. Like, I just had well, not at the time, I just had like another family member pass away that I grew up with. And I was like devastated. But then I saw them with other people that passed away, and I kept seeing weird things and having dreams and feeling things and waking up, and it wasn't me because I was already convinced that they were elsewhere, right? So it because that's what I was told. So I guess that kind of started my research journey on, I part of what started my research journey was like, how can I be more loving than God? Because I would like say someone had a rough life and they overdosed, right? Or committed suicide or whatever, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're in hell and blah blah." And for a while I was like, how could I have more compassion than God? Like, how could I look at this person's life and see that they've always been in hell? They were tortured, they were abused, became an addict, they wound up killing themselves, and now because of all that, they're in hell. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I would be like, dude, like,
Hmm.
time to be set free, like time to be like, you finally get to be free from all that stuff. I wouldn't be like, oh well, you went through all this shit and you didn't like figure out how to be perfect, so I'm sending you to burn forever for eternity. I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, how can I have more grace than God? Like, because I wouldn't ever do that, right? and then and it's just a lot of things were making me ask questions, and that's why I started studying and studying. And now, like, I realize a lot of that stuff, the demons, everything was made up. Well, it was like just, history. And history, if you go back in history, you can see how it all came about. But I still started having all these experiences outside of all the fear, outside of all the BS. And that's when I just started believing that, all the fear stuff was
Well,
BS, but I think
from
people
my
are really
point of
free.
view, that is all very interesting. I mean, and I disagree a bit. I don't think it was all in your mind. I think
I don't
maybe if you imagine God as a giant tree and it extends in all kind of branches, you're one of those branches. That's what
I
I
know it
think.
wasn't in my mind. I know it wasn't in my mind, like, because I didn't even know these people, a lot of them. And I would just get weird things. Like, one time my heart was racing, and there was this girl at this party who was kind of like trying to start stuff with everybody. And she came and sat down in front of me on the floor. And I was like, oh God. Right. And suddenly I started getting all these weird things about some guy in a bus, and he doesn't like to wear pants, and all these weird things coming to him. I'm like, what the heck? And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, do I just take a risk and like just say something? So I started saying, I'm like, I just keep picturing this guy and something about a bus, and he doesn't like to wear pants. I'm like, what the frick am I doing? Like, this lady's gonna think I'm crazy. And then she said that it was her uncle that she lived with who like recently committed suicide by stepping in front of a bus. And she laughed about the pants thing because I guess he wore those pants that used to button up down the sides that you could tear off. And he like refused to wear any other pants but those. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just kind of was like, wow, I'm getting all this weird stuff. I'm going to see what happens and just trust it. And because I was learning to trust, because I had a few weird things come to me and I took a chance on it, and it wound up being accurate. So I was getting braver. And I don't know where that came from because I didn't know this person. But, and then that's why I was wondering, like, maybe I'm picking up on something from them. Like, maybe there could be the person there, or it could be me picking up on the person from them, like
Like just something from their brain being transmitted.
that they're thinking about or feeling, or right? And I put it together or something. I don't really know. It's like trying to interpret feelings. You call it, people call it energy, but it's like you get all these feelings, like I feel like there's a girl there. I feel like her hair is this long. I feel
That's so
something
weird.
weird about a bus. I don't know where all this stuff is coming from, and then you take a chance on it and it winds up to be true and
That
accurate, and I don't know, I can't really make sense of it, I guess. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what they call telepathy. You know, I don't know if that's a real thing, telepathy, but I think you were tuning into. Uh,
I haven't done it in a
well,
long time. It's
that's
just
what I was
I
gonna
don't
ask
think
if
you
you
were making it
still
all up.
feel that.
well, I avoid people a lot, to be honest, at this point, and like besides my kids and my
You bully
mom,
people a lot.
no, avoid.
Oh,
I
avoid.
was bullying.
Angelique, you big bully. Can't
Yeah, bully.
she's
Yeah, but no,
she's so
I don't know why. I just I don't know.
well, this to me it definitely has potential for the trans issue. This idea that you can sense gender from like you knew it was a girl, you can sense maleness or femaleness or girl or boy.
Well, I've never sensed anything else, but I'm sure if that's how they presented themselves, that's how they would present themselves
Was it
for it to
visual,
be
like you
picked
had
up
an
on.
image of a little girl, or was it like a
See,
an energy?
I never know how to explain that. It's like it was just like a knowing. I didn't physically see somebody.
So it wasn't anything. It was more like an intuition. It wasn't anything concrete.
Yeah, it's just a feeling. Like I sensed different details or different things that came to me, and then I would describe them, and yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Wow. I
It,
don't, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. Normally I find a way to criticize and dismiss everything.
it's
Angeline, did you ever have a very lucid dream, like a dream where you know you're awake? I'm just curious.
well, I've I've left my body when I was a kid just because the abuse was really bad. So one time I went and I was just walking around my neighborhood and I saw weird things, like I saw a pair of red runners that were tied up and thrown in a bush. And I saw a weird little dog and all these things. I was just walking around my block. And then when I was awake, I was like, what the heck? Like, that was weird. So I decided to go on a walk with my friend. I called my friend at the end of the block and we went for a walk to see if we could find any of that stuff. And it was there. Like, the shoes were the most shocking one. That's why it stood out to me. So it felt like a dream, but then everything was there when I went to go and see if it was there. So I don't know if there's a big difference between them, right? So I have no idea.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. I'm sorry about the abuse, by the way.
It was a crazy life, but maybe that's why I just like being in my house with my kids now. Life is weird.
Hmm. Sorry. Don't mean to bring that up.
It's okay. I definitely had a wild past. I don't always go there. And I have a lot of memory loss too, but most of it happened when I was younger. And it went to court when I was 8 years old. A bunch of people got caught for things, and they were lucky for me. They admitted everything in court because I honestly had severe memory loss. So it was uh, it was definitely in my favor that they thought I remembered stuff and just said everything. So that was good. Thanks to my mom, who totally threatened the shit out of them in the hallway before court started.
Hmm.
Just like, they're like, "Do you want to see that little girl up there telling them everything?" And da, da, da. So they thought I told her everything. So she was like, this is before court started. They were like sitting me up on those yellow page things because I couldn't see over the top because it was pretty small. And well, I was like 8. And my mom, I guess, was out in the hall and she just flipped on them. She's like, "You want to see that little girl up there telling them everything you did?" And blah, blah, blah. And then they freaked out. And so they went in before the court started and admitted everything to the judge. And
Ugh.
then the next thing I knew, I was out in the hallway and they were like, the main person was being dragged away and was being told like that I would never see them again. And at the time, I like freaked out because I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't understand. So, yeah, I don't know.
That
I
does
don't.
that does sound like a bumpy experience.
It was very upsetting, especially as a kid. But I mean, I understand it more now. But it's definitely left a lot of trauma inside when you don't get it when you're for a long time when you're a kid, right?
No, you
So
don't. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
And welcome, Brooke
I
and Billy.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi. Billy's at the other end of the bed sleeping.
Oh, okay. Well, tell him hi for us when he wakes up. What's up?
Not much. I just find this topic really interesting.
Yeah, I was skeptical at first, but it really is a fascinating topic.
I'm mostly
I
a
don't know
logical
what to
mind.
make of some of it.
I'm mostly a logical mind too, which is why I've been like spending forever trying to make everything make logical sense. And I try, but I guess you have to go to some kind of people call it energy, but or feeling, right? I think when we're feeling stuff, it's just feeling energy, and then you're trying to like put words to it,
Yeah, you're trying to
see
express
what you
it.
get. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I find it fascinating, and I think we all have at least some kind of experience like that. I hope so.
Yeah. And
Even
I'm
even
really against people using that stuff. Like I've seen people use healing and knowing things about people and whatever, and they use it for complete freaking asshole things like
yeah,
messing with women and messing like you know what I mean, like hurting people. Like that was me. I was the kid who was like in the churches who was being hurt because they were like, oh, this is for God's will and this is like cleansing and when you know about it
mm,
now you're like, oh, that was very 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 wrong. Right? But you don't know when you're a kid, you're just really confused and
yeah,
so it's like I don't like people using that stuff for manipulation and benefit and whatever. And I think every single person has access to it. There's no special person out there who can like do special things that people should be looking up to and making leaders and blah blah blah. Just all that stuff really bothers me because I've seen it being abused a lot.
yeah. It does get abused, and it's like a rabbit hole, right? The whole spirituality thing. It it gets it gets tiring, and there's a lot of shenanigans in that area, and maybe it's all bullshit. I don't know, but
Yeah,
like you
maybe.
say, I think, like you say, you sense a kind of energy. I think that is real, and I think that you can sense energy anywhere if you're open to it.
And
And
even with all my experience, I go back and forth all the time on if I actually believe there is a God, like some kind of personality, or if it's just energy. Like I don't even know if there is like a personal God or just energy, and we're all kind of connected. It's like the internet, right? Like the
yeah,
internet is connected to so much shit and we can like tune into or go into different parts of it, but something's making it all happen. Like it's all coming from somewhere it's kind of like we're kind of like connected to a network of energy and I can pick up on people here and people gone, and whatever energy was here, I can kind of tune into it. Or even if I'm doing art or something, I can kind of tune into like ideas and inspiration from who knows where. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
just feel like it's some kind of network or something.
yeah. I mean, just like the internet, right? I think we're connected as humans by the internet, but I think there's also a higher connection between humans that is
I think
kind of like the internet, kind of
But
like the internet. It's like a mind geist. Yeah, what's the term? A zeitgeist. That's what I
zeitgeist.
mean.
But
Yeah,
the
a
internet
zeitgeist.
has like we can show the cables
yeah.
and the signals and all that, like
The
transmitting
internet
this.
does. Yeah, the internet doesn't possess its own will. It does,
No, it
but it.
doesn't. Yeah,
I think it's most analogous to like it's similar. It would you could almost consider it like a field of intellect, right? Like it doesn't possess its own will in order to persist, but it's predominantly a network of information.
That's what I mean.
Right.
And we're connected to everything that was ever in existence. It's like the
Right.
internet is limited, but we're not. I mean, we
Right.
limit ourselves. Like we're
Oh,
yeah.
limited with what
We
we
have
think
like
or believe or
the
whatever. But
DNA of our ancestors, right? And DNA is information. And we were built with information. We were built with our DNA that we have at the moment. And
or
that's the
DNA is an
information.
antenna. There's some theories on that. Pretty interesting.
There's Billy.
Mhm.
Or it is not only information, but also is sort of an antenna.
Is sort of a what?
An antenna.
DNA. So it would
I've
be
seen some
continue.
interesting.
It's not just unpacking information. It would be receiving new
Yeah.
information and
So it's almost like
that's
it's tuned into a particular information source or something.
okay. That's weird. That's
But it's relatively recent, I think, in the as far as the explorations of such things
okay. So well,
are concerned. But
somebody
I've
needs
seen
to
some
do a
things on
sci-fi
that.
series on it so I could see it play
Yeah.
out because this is freaking me out. There's just people I don't want to be connected to, and I don't want their information in my DNA.
Yeah, well, and like there's, was it like the new iPhones and the technology, right? They're using fractal antennas, and I think that's kind of what they're looking at with DNA is that it could possibly be a sort of a fractal antenna.
What's a fractal antenna?
So an antenna, right? Like so any sort of uh, i- e- different waves, right? Electromagnetic radiation waves have different amplitudes, right? The different frequencies. And so in order to pick up a particular frequency, you have to have sort of the size of the antenna that picks it up is ideal, right? So like if you've ever been around ham radio people who are picking up the stuff from trying to pick up the radio waves that they can get from across the ocean, right? They have to have a pretty big, the size of the antenna is, they build antennas to specific sort of units of the wave they're trying to pick up, right? So you can tune an antenna to pick this the way the size of an antenna tunes it to pick up a particular wave. And so you end up with the issue of, okay, how do you can't just have a straight line, right? Like, because all the old antennas were just sticking up, right? And you notice on
Yeah.
like all the iPhones now, there's no apparent antenna, and what they found is, and I'm not an expert on this, I've just sort of summarily read about it, but I mean, it makes sense. Basically, they're fractal units of the frequency that they're after, right? The length of the wave they're after. Instead of just having one length of antenna that's tuned to that wave, they can take it in sort of a logarithmic pattern and then fold it in on itself, and it still picks up that wave if it's tuned into it.
What's the advantage of that?
Compactness, right? Like you can just sort of wind it around itself. You
Oh,
can
so it doesn't have to be this long extended
right,
thing.
right. So it's like, okay, if the unit you're after is this big, then you can take whatever the proportion is, right? Like, and then have another unit. So you can, as long as each piece of it is is the fractal reduction, then they're all a a subunit essentially, of the wave you're after. Somehow that works.
Do you have a history in electricity, maybe, or in Ren Rogue?
I mean, I have
Are you an electrician, or were you an
not
electrician?
specifically. I mean, I'm a I'm a polymath farmer, so I mean, I know quite a bit about doing electrician work. But
Hmm.
I've
Assuming.
studied a lot of different fields, so and I mean,
like
most things can be derived from an understanding of physics. I've studied a lot of physics, and
Well,
I
that's
like the
cool.
antenna thing too, because like that's kind of what I was wondering, like, or it's something I just think about sometimes, is like, if we're antennas and where we focus is what we're tuning into, that's
right.
out there in the field or whatever, right? Like,
But like you weren't even focusing. It just kind of came randomly,
but I was on a
spontaneous.
roll. Like, I was like so excited that, you know, I don't know, I just had this revelation of like everyone's okay and everyone's not even somewhere. They're like here, and they're good, and they're like not in their body anymore, which is where all pain and fear is, right? We're all trying to protect the flesh and feeling everything in the flesh, and everything sucks in the flesh, and then suddenly we don't have flesh anymore, and we're like, this is like, most people probably who died don't even want to come back because they're like, that sucked. This is cool, right? like right. So I mean, and then but are they still around? Like, are there energy there? I don't know, but I was just like picking up on stuff.
I
So
don't want to be energy.
Yeah. I always imagine that there's like a higher version of myself that's tunneled out, and this is the video game I choose to play, right? Like it's sort of
yeah.
this recursive idea. And I keep
And
part of my sanity by assuming that I chose to be that I chose to play the game, and I chose to play it on these stupid with some stupid hard settings on the character creator. And I'm like, that's really frustrating. And then I go, wait, when I play video games, I totally do that. So I'm like, okay, fine. But have you guys ever read any of the papers? There's a guy named like William Sidis who was kind of a recluse, but was supposedly like one of the highest recorded IQs. Is why he's known. But I read a paper that he wrote, and there's something else. There's another guy that I heard the other day that was sort of saying the same thing, but that the point of it was is that if you examine the features that we use to sort of like determine if a thing is conscious, right? Like if I'm going to be like, is Jeff conscious? And right, like the things I'm checking off to
Barely
look
right now.
for, right?
Mhm.
Whatever
Jeff loves
that sit
coffee,
is.
so I
That
think he's
if
still
you apply
conscious.
if you apply the same checklist to your unconscious, that you're unconscious, even though you can't access it by definition, right? Like it's hidden from you. But there seems to be some that it actually fulfills all of the requirements of consciousness.
Yeah,
That-
I don't even
That's
believe in the unconscious.
that's really
Which
interesting.
I've
Sorry,
always
go
found that a
on. Sorry,
really
go on.
interesting. Yeah, I mean that's just the
Mm.
concept, but I found that it's a concept that I've thought of, that I've harkened back to frequently since I
I
read it
kind of
years ago.
want to hear you say it again because I didn't really catch, I think.
Yeah, the basic thesis was that the unconscious, your unconscious, as you perceive it, right? Because we definitely perceive the unconscious, right? There's some thinking, there's something that
The
goes on that we
unconscious
don't
is
have.
just an inference.
You
It's
mean
not a.
like
Right,
the
we can infer it
autopilot stuff
by the
that
complement.
you mean like wiring or whatever? Like our
No,
brains are
no,
wired
not
and stuff, and they
necessarily
go
the
on autopilot.
subconscious. Not necessarily the subconscious, which is sort of the
Okay.
stuff that's still running, but the unconscious, right?
Yeah.
So think of you would it would it might be what you would say. Okay, that's where dreams come from. Maybe is the unconscious. Like where does a lot of when
They
it
just come from the brain. There's not
Yeah.
a.
just hypothetically, right? But if you examine it, if you look at what the way you can perceive your consciousness, right? And then if you look at the complement, your unconscious, that it meets all the criteria for a consciousness.
But I don't even
Yeah.
believe it's a thing.
Mm.
It's just an abstract.
Well,
It's.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to. I'm not saying it
I don't
means
know.
one
I
thing or
don't
the
know
other.
what the referent of unconscious.
But
It's not an actual thing that people can
No,
point
but
to. Like
unconscious,
consciousness, we
unconsciousness
experience, so we
for
know
me
what
is
that
a
is.
thing. I
right, but
mean,
typically we think the way the unconscious is treated when it's used in terms is it's somehow less conscious, right? Like because we don't, it's not part of our conscious, right? Like we're not in conscious awareness of it. It's
I
yeah,
don't. I
but
yeah,
think
I
it
there's
is
agree.
that
less
there
conscious
black
because I
wall,
think
but
it's
it's like
not
it fulfills
consciousness.
all of the. Well, that's just it. That's the idea. That's the interesting idea is that uh, it it fulfills all of the requirements of a consciousness, even though it's
Does
not
it
the one
To
that
be
still?
serves
I
us.
don't
conscious, to
know.
I get
fulfill the
what you mean.
requirements of a
Yes, I get
consciousness, it
what you
has to
mean
be we
completely.
have to be conscious of it. It has to be made conscious, and it's not
Yeah.
that. So it doesn't even fulfill the basic requirement of consciousness.
W-
Are
With
Yeah,
you
but
are you do you differentiate sentience from conscience
I mean, I can.
consciousness?
I'm also a nominalist. This is all words, but I
Yeah,
need to know the thing that the word is pointing to, and
yeah.
the unconscious doesn't point to anything.
I've been
Consciousness
thinking about
points to an
finding.
experience.
it gets hard. It gets hard to articulate.
Yeah,
This entire
Yeah,
if
but
I
people
topic.
talk
I
about
need to
like
think.
Yeah.
it's a thing, and it's not. It's not. I don't know what this thing
It
is,
is
and I
not
don't know
a.
what energy is either, though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had
Okay.
to
I
like
mean, it's just an
And I have
interesting
differentiate
to
thought.
my
pee.
brain as an organ that has a tape playing in it that's on autopilot. And I don't, you could call it the unconscious, but I just call it the wiring in the brain. So, like, if you like, and they've showed this too, like, if you grew up hearing one thing over and over and over and over and over and over, it like actually puts a pathway through the brain and that automatically becomes like a thought you go down,
Yeah,
right?
that makes more sense to me.
And
Like a neural
and
pathway
so you
is a
have
thing.
all these automatic tapes going off, these beliefs, you call them beliefs, they're just things you think over and over again until they have a autopilot path in your brain. And often it
Yeah.
keeps us in the same cycles, right? And so you could just think something and just think that's you, but it could just be a tape that you've accepted as you, and or that you just it's been there so long you barely even notice it anymore, or you just think it's part of you or whatever. But that's the whole like when you're like become conscious of a thought that you're just having without even really thinking about it, right? Like if I'm thinking all the time, like I don't know, I'm gonna get beat up if I go outside. I'm gonna get like if it's just your autopilot all the time, and then you're just like, wait, is that my thought or is that like the freaking tape I've got going on? And when you could like kind of become aware of your thought, it's I don't know, it's a game changer though. But I've learned that a lot of that stuff in the brain is wiring in the brain. It's not you choosing to think it all the time. Sometimes it's just what's put in the brain. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
And I think we've all had a deja vu, right? We've
Yeah.
had a moment, a deja vu, that
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
happened.
but sometimes
Uh,
I can trace it back to an actual prior
yeah.
memory that it's
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
being
Something
reminded of.
you thought of before, and then it happened. Right? Maybe it was
Or a very
in
similar
the dream world,
experience
or
that's
anywhere
getting
else. But
triggered.
yeah.
I have a question for you guys. So what you're talking about, Angeline, is yeah, the metacognition is a game changer, right? If you can think about your own thinking and observe it, that it's you have much more conscious control over it. I have a question. Have any of you ever gone to the point where like for me it's if I've been awake for like 3 or 4 days and I
You've
have the
been
choice
awake
to either
that
sort of
long?
like
Oh, damn.
I've been awake for like 3 days before.
Oh,
It takes about 3 days. The second day, 24 hours or 48 is no biggie. A lot of times the second 24 is actually better, but for me, but once I get past, once I'm in that like past 36 hour or no, let's see, 48, 70, past 3 days, when I'm starting to get towards the end of 3 days, that's about the end of my rope. And so like I've had, a sort of this is the extreme end of it, right? Because we've all, I don't know, I assume we've all sort of done the thing where we're like driving somewhere and we kind of zone out and we're like, who drove me here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is sort of the extreme end. And I almost did it, like I got to the point where it was almost an experiment because I'd seen this sort of that auto state before, but I was so exhausted. I had to go and do a meet and greet kind of event. Like I had to talk to people and be social and like I had to go do this event and I hadn't slept in 3 days. And I was kind of wonky out of it. So instead of trying to like fight through the fog, I just sort of like backed off and I said, and I just sort of in my, like, I'm like, all right, engage autopilot. And I have very, very little memory of that day. All I remember is that like peeking through a pinhole, my metacognitive sort of perspective, right? The part of me that I think of as me that's normally sort of like observing and deciding on things, kind of knew it was going on, but was not in control. And most people couldn't tell the difference, right? Like I was on and like very high functioning autopilot. But I wasn't in the driver's seat. Like, right? I was looking at it through a little pinhole, going, "Yep, that's me. That's operating that." But I'm not running it. Like I said, that's the extreme end. But I found that really interesting that actually does work. You know.
And maybe just a part of your brain clicked out. Like maybe you were functioning, but certain senses and stuff weren't functioning, so it felt like you weren't as there while you were functioning.
Well, I mean, externally, everything was functioning fine. Like my body was reading the sensory data because it was smoozing all the right people and doing. And that's not even like it's something I'm decent at, but it's not like my favorite thing. Like that's something that requires a little effort on my part, right? To be like social and like go like I don't like to have to like start the conversation with people, but that was the job at the time, right? Like it was my year of living politically, and so I had to be outgoing, right, and start all the combos. And like I said, I sort of, it was like watching it through a veil, right? It's like the part of me that I think of as me wasn't running the vehicle. And most people couldn't tell. Like I could tell, like I was not as I wouldn't have been as adaptable, right? Like the depth was lower than all of me.
So
you
who
know,
was running the vehicle then? At
I don't
that
know.
time?
Maybe like more of like your
autopilot,
safeties.
whatever autopilot is, right?
So maybe some of your like safeties were down. Like maybe if you're thinking more cautious or like, kind of like, not. It's not going to be an exact example, but like when you get drunk and distorted, sometimes you're more outgoing and talkative and can flow through things. If you are a person that's very cautious or in control or whatever, and then some of that guard goes down and you like flow a little bit more for some people.
Yeah, but I mean, I really don't. I don't change much when I drink. If I drink the wrong kind of hoppy beer, I get kind of introverted in my head. But if the sort of normal effect, like I just.
Oh, but I'm like
I'm a
wondering
little
if
lighter, but I'm still
overtired.
in the driver's seat, right? It's like I'm still there. I'm just a little lubricated. Like it's not, and I'm not generally a held back sort of person.
I
I'm
don't
just
know,
saying maybe your
maybe
experience though is something
Yeah,
like
go
you were
ahead.
so tired that you're just kind of flowing, but you don't have so much thought to it, like so much like.
Yeah, but like the part of me that's normally in control is just watching.
You're observing yourself?
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. And this is, I mean, I'm always observing my thinking. And then there's like the observer, there's the sort of space where thoughts come and go and whatever.
But who is
and
the observer really? But because you observe yourself, right? You observe your actions.
I
and
identify it
your-
as the thing that sort of like the top level of observation, right? Like
Yeah. Okay.
that's for me. That's usually what's in charge, is the metacognitive sort of observer.
It's like the eye of the beholder, right? It's like the all-seeing eye, you could call it.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest experience. That was my biggest sort of like hardcore experiment into like trying to like going, okay, what does basically, I mean, in the terms I was talking about earlier, it was like my unconscious was in the driver's seat, right?
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to function fine, but I wasn't in, but the normal observer, what I can consider my consciousness, right? The part that's literally conscious, right? That is aware of things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not sensing things, right? There's a difference between like like physically sensing, but the thing that's aware that the sensing is going on and like making decisions about it, that was not really in
Yeah.
charge.
Hmm.
That was too tired, and it was just kind of like, oh, yeah.
It's
What
almost
Crazy.
like
are
old
your
school.
thoughts?
It's almost like old school possession, then, kinda.
Like,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on it? Like,
that's
what
an
is
ancient
for you
thought,
is
but
like the part that was separated, like the two parts or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
you. I don't think you were possessed. By the way,
yeah. I mean, like, but the idea
I think you
that
were
you're
connecting
unconscious
with that.
is just as capable as you're conscious. It's just more. It's just what's outside of your bandwidth or something, right? Like it's you can't hold on to that much at once, but it has all the functionality of it. You just can't. It's part of the same thing. You just there's a limit to how much of it you can grok at once.
Yeah.
Like
It's like
things
a
like that,
partial split.
like to me reinforce that idea. And then there's stuff I've done where it's like I have all these I think of as like these back burners in my brain, and I go, okay, unconscious, like the elves in the background that I can't see, right? The elves that come out at night when I'm right, like it's like I need you to work on this problem, and then like a week later, it's like suddenly that problem's solved.
Yeah, and
Like
at
that
some
seems
point,
to work,
your
right? Like I
physical
started
body will
trying, I'm
have.
like, that seems to work. Even though I
Yeah,
can't directly explain it. The best conceptual explanation is if you imagine that you're unconscious, that part of the that you can't seem to view, right? Like that it is just as capable and operates essentially as you're conscious, that you can communicate with it as if it was another conscious.
You become the observer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's those are my sort of like extreme data points that are
I
not
know a
entirely
lot.
explained.
I know a lot of people who've like their body has like they've separated from their body, which particularly like one thing I thought of with that is like not like yours was different because you're not like your body was still going, but I know for a lot of people if they experience extreme pain, if it's too high of a pain level point, they actually leave the body, which I think is
yep,
must
yep.
be something built into us to protect us because we can only handle so much, right?
Yeah.
And like I've had that experience too, where you're suddenly outside the body and you're like looking at the body. And it's usually when there's too high of a pain point or too high of a fear, and you can lose consciousness or you can suddenly not be there, but you can watch yourself. Like it's really
Yeah.
strange. I know a lot of people who've had that experience.
It's a
Yeah.
common
Different
near-death
levels and
experience
types
as
of,
well. I think,
yeah, the
like
different types of
people in
dissociation
operating
are
rooms in
interesting.
hospitals, they like when you're getting operated. I've heard of near-death experiences that are
Right.
exactly like that. Like you watch your body, you watch them operate on you, and it's
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Jesse was stabbed 12 times and he was losing so much blood they couldn't numb him to take the pain away, and they had to start sticking their fingers in every stab hole to make sure there was nothing broken off in them because they had to sew him up really quick. And at some point he saw himself laying on the table and he was up above himself watching them do all
yeah.
this stuff to him. And
Mm.
then next thing you know, he woke up and he was in bed, right? And so it was like, and I've heard like so many stories like that too. Like there's this one guy who was parachuting and hit a power line, and the next thing he knew, he was watching himself hit the power line and go down. And then he woke up on a boat. Like it was like something weird
Oh.
happens. Like I don't understand all of that, but definitely fascinating. And in a way, it's a little comforting, I guess, because something is wired for us to like it's some kind of protection. Just like blacking out can be a protection, right?
I've
Yeah, I
always
mean,
wondered. Go ahead.
Or I
I've
was gonna
heard
say,
of
or
people
memory
that got pushed out of traffic that was about to hit them. You know, it seems there's some kind of intelligence that is, yeah, taking care of us. And I think,
something.
Well, it's not doing a very good job. I feel like I could do a way better job than it's
I
doing.
yeah, I
think I
mean, it's
can
not
agree with
Figuring
perfect,
that
out
but
too.
the nature and the world, people.
And
I mean,
that's why I
I
want to
think
figure out how much has to do with us, right? Like, is it us doing it? Like, that's why I want to figure it out.
yeah, I have like my first thought is like with the out of body experiences and people, like super disassociating, like disassociating out of their body. That my I would be curious to know like what their normal relationship with their associative relationship with their body is because I don't know, just off the top of my head, it almost feels like what I would guess from my perspective is that people who are generally really identify as being in their body or almost identify as their body might be more prone to that, to like total disassociation when it becomes necessary. Because like myself, I almost, for my best I can tell, I exist normally in a sort of pseudo, like a semi-dissociative state. I don't
could
identify
you
very much
could,
as my body.
could you
I
call?
identify as the observer running the meat suit, right? And so,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
pain thing, I can actually like any kind of acute pain. Like I've learned through meditation from martial arts. I figured it out one night. Like I can basically like make that go away. I can
Yeah.
turn
Yeah,
the pain
you
off.
you could disassociate from your body.
No, but
And
I'm still in my
But
body. I can just turn it off.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have to disassociate from my body. I feel like I said, I'm in sort of a half dissociated state anyway. So I'm a little more aware of the separation. I'm like always to some degree very aware of the separation between my perceived sort of mind conscious uh metacognitive observer and my body. Like it's not like and so it's so I've never experienced anything like where gone completely out. But but I know people who are like very clearly much more in their body, right? Like their normal state of being, the overlap, they perceive them to be sort of like the Venn diagram of their body and their mind and their consciousness. Like their normal procedure is that it's almost a circle, right? Like it's almost a full overlap. Whereas like you can think
yeah.
of as like I'm already operating at like they're only partially crossed over. It's a
So I had a weird experience because
anyway, it's just a theory. I would love to test it, but I don't have. So
I like because my abuse started as a baby. Like I guess it started when I was a baby in diapers, and so I have a lot of like I got to work with a neurosurgeon who showed me that I have like a lot of scar tissue in my brain
hmm,
from because when between the ages of 0 and 3, when you have severe abuse, it'll often create scar tissue in the brain to cover to like you'll have severe memory loss, right? It's a way of protecting
mhm,
you, and you lose consciousness and stuff. So when for me, it wasn't till later in life, like maybe even 6 years ago, where I learned that I was super disconnected from my body. And then I realized I don't know if I was ever connected to my body because I learned to be detached from my body from a very long, very like from forever, as long far back as I can remember as a baby, to protect myself, to not be in my body, to not feel things. And I went through a lot of healing where I didn't even wasn't even conscious or aware of how much I hated my body. Like I hated my freaking body for just existing because it caused me so much pain. It's like just because I'm in a body, I'm gonna have all this pain and whatever, right? Like I hadn't checked in to my body in so long that I had so many emotions around it, and then I had to learn to like feel in my body again, like actually feel stuff because I turned off so much physical feeling that I couldn't feel anything, but the problem was I couldn't feel anything good either. Right? I couldn't feel anything bad, but then I couldn't feel anything good either. It just was like not there. Like right? So it took me a while to even learn how to like come back into my body and learn to be safe in my body and like feel my body again. So that was a whole other journey. Like, so I
Wait,
don't
how did you
know.
come back into your body? Because I have that.
Yeah, for me it um uh okay, I'm being a little vulnerable here, I guess. I met a lady who was like kind of like into um sexual abuse healing and all that kind of stuff. And she goes through the I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's erotic blueprints. So you know how there's love languages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also sexual languages. So there's different ones. There's like some are sensual, some are energetic, which is really just the tension between things without actually touching. Some are sexual, which is like direct touching, direct go for the goal kind of thing, right? There's kinky, which means they need it to be like kind of edgy, like,
Oh
and it
yeah.
doesn't have to be something
That was
kooky
fun.
like cuffs or whatever, but it could be like, oh, let's like do it in a different spot or like do something risky or like just something that keeps it like a little bit like edgy, right? Or exciting. And then there's one that encompasses them all and needs a little bit of everything. So I think I got them all. But you can find out what you are. And there's some people who actually do training where you find out yourself. So you will do different things like you will try hold energy over yourself, like different parts of your body and see if you're sensitive to that or if you feel anything. You can try um grabbing or scratching or light touches or there's other clues too like if you're a sensual like music light stuff like that would be really good, but then if you have dirty laundry everywhere you can't be in the moment because that's all you can think about, like that would be a sign of essential, right? So there's different ways to tell, like there's some tests and stuff you can do. Anyways, this lady took us through some things where you kind of just you so that you're safe experiment with different ways of touching yourself or scratching or holding energy or tapping or whatever, and you see how your body responds and you kind of learn about yourself and you learn how to feel it and what you like and what you don't like, and it's really about learning about you, like figuring out you. And just something during that I just realized I couldn't even feel my body, and then it was really hard for me to feel my body, and that I was
Mm.
extremely sensitive to energy though, right? Like the tension, but in my body itself, I couldn't feel anything. And to try and get myself to feel it was like hard. And when I did feel it, I felt so much anger. Like I was so angry. I remember bawling my eyes out. I remember just thinking, I hate you. Like I hate you. That was what came to me. And I had no idea any of that was there when that happened. It just came up in me how much I hated myself. And and uh and that was a healing moment for me because a lot of the teaching was that you can also experience pleasure in your body, and I really wanted to not be blocked from that anymore. And so I don't know, I guess I just worked on feeling my body again and then learning how to be safe in my body again and learning how to allow myself to feel so that I can experience that, like, but also learning boundaries so that I can open myself to feeling again, right? Like even a hug. Like I learned, like if you give a hug when you don't want to, like you know, some people say, "Well, give them a hug," like force kids to give a hug or whatever. If your body's saying, "I don't want to hug this person," and you just make yourself hug the person out of formality, your body will actually
Mm.
start to learn that it can't trust you,
Yeah.
right?
True.
And
Yeah.
it'll start to build up walls and stuff. And like you build a relationship with your body, so teaching your body that it can trust you, like that you're going to say no, that if something's uncomfortable, you're not going to do it just to be polite or make someone happy or whatever. Like teaching your body it can trust you again is a really big one. I don't know. There was so many weird little things that came to me when I started that healing, but that was some of them, I guess.
Well, I hope you don't hate yourself anymore. I really hope you don't
I definitely have up and downs,
feel.
but I'm definitely able to feel more now, for sure, in my body. That's for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah. A sad story, but also a very inspiring.
Yeah. There is
Yeah.
healing.
Sounds like a healthy way to go about trying to get back into your body.
Yeah. I also learned like my body panicked, like I was because I passed out a lot, it wound up being wiring, and I was blacking out all the time and going to the hospital, and I couldn't figure out what the frig, why, like, because there was nothing happening that should cause that, but I guess sometimes triggers can cause it, like if there is wiring for that. And so that's when I got to work with the neurologist and stuff, because they were explaining to me that I had wiring in my nervous system and stuff that was causing me reactions, but I didn't have memories to connect it to because the memories were scarred over. I had lots of memory loss, but my body was still remembering. And so I had to learn how to calm my body down around things too, like tapping on the nervous system to calm it down, and different things, breathing, like I don't know, all the weird things they teach you to like. But if you continually learn how to calm your nervous system down around a reaction, you can rewire the nervous system and the muscle memory and the body and all that kind of stuff.
Do the breathing exercises work for you? Because
No, they
uh,
didn't work worth
I
shit at the beginning.
I've been told to try the same, and it isn't working for me.
Yeah,
I
the big
tried,
one I
but
really liked is the EFT. It's like where you tap on certain nervous system meridian points that they use in they use them in pressure points, like Chinese pressure points and all that. They teach you how to tap on them in sequence, and it actually just causes the nervous system to relax, and you do it while you're feeling something that's normally intense, and then you stop feeling the intensity around it. Oh my gosh, that was such a friggin' lifesaver for me. That one. So that might be a good one to look into. The breathing did shit for me, or like breathe. I'm like, I can't breathe. You can't make me breathe. That's not happening. They tried the what's that one? EMR, where they make you go look back and forth, and it does something in the brain to like switch off the, I don't know, the bad feelings around the memories or the nervous system reaction. I couldn't do that one either because that one made me feel really sick. Like I was getting really nauseous from that one. And I guess they have a new like thing that my doctor wants to sign me up for that I'm interested in trying. It's using like some kind of like magnetic field around the brain, and I guess it does something like you know how mushrooms, they've shown how mushrooms will, you know how I said the path thing, like if you have a thought over and over again, it makes a path and it becomes like autopilot. And I
yeah,
guess when you do the mushrooms, it's like it causes all the paths to smooth out like they've been snowed on. And it
yeah,
kind of opens up more ways of thinking about things so that you can create new pathways about things that happen to you or whatever. And you can start to build on new pathways, but it helps you
yeah,
because you're often stuck in one thought. You can't see everything, and it kind
yeah.
of helps you
I can
see more,
say,
and then you
as a
can make new
European, I
paths.
mean, I'm from the Netherlands. Not that that matters, but mushrooms are available here, like in a big way, and I can say mushrooms definitely can clear up your mind and pathways, like you say. I really didn't want to interrupt you, by the way, but what you said sparked a memory in me. It can really unblock a few things
I only tried it
regarding
once
your path.
with the natural path, and it was horrible. And
Oh.
I cried and cried and cried after, and I was like, I thought these were supposed to help you and make you better. Why am I crying? And they're like, well, have you ever cried before? And I thought about it because I was like completely emotionless. Like I had no emotions. Like remember I was telling you how I went to the comedy club and my friends would be like, are you okay? Because I'd never be like laughing out loud or, and they're like, well, so something happened because I could cry, right? So I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
guess, but this kind of sucks because I don't like crying. I like
But
being in control,
crying is
right?
crying is sometimes needed, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
If
that
there's
was my only
something
experience.
that needs
So
to be cried about that we never cried about, then let's cry about it, right?
yeah,
I don't know. Well, it's just my thought, but
yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, to go back a little bit, what was the breathing technique that you were taught or whatever, or told to try?
Me, I
Yeah,
was taught
everybody.
a whole bunch of them. The box breathing, the slower out than in. The I don't know. I've tried a whole bunch of them.
Just curious. I have a I do the have used the for martial arts to do the like inhale for a count, hold for a count, exhale for a count,
Yeah.
hold for a count. I don't know. I've used that as a basis for some things.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
think
mean,
it's
it helps now a little
I
more,
think the
but
control, right? Like that's the idea is learning to it helps you control your body in a relatively simple way.
it calms, it tells your body that you're safe, which triggers your mind to calm down your nervous system. And it's another way of rewiring, just breathing. So if that works, like that's amazing. Because when your body wants to go into fight, flight, whatever, everything races, your breath shortens, blah, blah, blah. And when you're intentionally taking a deep breath, it's telling your body you're safe. It's like opposite of what your body wants to do. So it's kind of telling your body to start doing something else.
I think it is my experience with it is it's sort of you're hijacking. Yeah, you're sort of interrupting whatever your body's trying to do. Because as far as like calming down, what I've used it for, in my background with this sort of thing is martial arts. So, like where if you're out of breath and you're wound up, and doing the breathing to like slow your heart rate down within like 2 breaths instead of sitting there letting your heart rate slow down on its own, right? And you can do that, and that does work.
Mm-hmm.
But
I really
yeah,
don't want to end this conversation because it's so good. But
Yeah, you should
speaking
go
of
to sleep.
autopilot,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about there.
Okay. Yeah, it's wow, you've been going for a long time.
I know 7 hours, and I worked all day today too.
Angeline gave us
yeah,
lots to think about. That was think
Do
lots.
you
I'm
do
very
you
I'm
want to
very
do you
sorry.
want to do a stream, Angeline, or y'all can continue on another channel, and at least the content will get captured.
No,
Because
I've
this is good
been.
stuff. I wish I could go more with it, or even leave it running and let the rest of you continue.
I should probably go to bed too. My sleeping pattern has been way off, so
Yeah, it's been very
probably
interesting. I
start.
gotta say, I came here randomly, and you're very, very lovely people. And
Oh, well, how did you find it? Just you were searching YouTube, or did it feed it to you?
yeah, I don't know. I was bored.
Oh,
I had a few drinks. I will admit that. And I like to talk to people when I'm doing that.
well,
And
I'm here almost every day, so stop by again if you want.
I
yeah,
thought
I'll
it was so
subscribe then.
funny.
And
I thought it was so funny how in the private chat you're like, I'm not a troll, and then as soon as you came on here, you're like, I'm just trolling channels.
I know.
I was like,
I bet all of you thought I was a troll. I'm not a troll.
It was
but-
so hard to tell. Like for somebody who was trying to convince that they're not a troll.
Yeah.
You were
I'm not
sending out
convinced
all
that
the
you're not a
troll
troll,
signals.
but I'm convinced that you weren't trolling in this case.
No, I mean,
No, I
no.
think he's in good faith. He came up to talk.
I know. I'm just.
No. Yeah, come
Oh,
back.
I,
hey,
This
Moose.
is
I
been
Speaking
I
of,
was inspired to go on panels because of a troll. Because I idolize this guy. He's called Music Bismarcky, but that's a rabbit hole you don't need to go into. Just
oh, so
ignore that.
you're inspired by a troll to dabble in trolling?
No, to
Oh,
to go on panels, I guess,
just to go on panels, but
just to interact with people. Yeah, and
to not troll.
not necessarily to make their lives
So, are you
miserable.
new at panels?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Welcome. This is a good starter panel. We're very easy on newcomers here. You're gonna
Yeah.
enjoy the
Well.
panelverse, I think.
Yeah. You seem like intelligent people, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna involve any of the troll community bullshit in your lives. That's not worth it.
Oh, we appreciate it. I've dealt with a few rounds of that already.
Hmm.
There's plenty of places to go to troll.
Yeah,
This
there
is a
really
nice. This
is.
is so yeah.
This
Maintaining
is the
this as sort of
oasis from
an
all of that.
oasis is nice. Oasis, yeah, oases are important.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it was
Yeah.
certainly nice to meet you, and come back anytime. And
Yeah. Have a good morning or evening. I don't know what the time is there, but uh,
Right.
and
yeah.
Angeline,
Well,
I thank you as always.
I was
yeah,
nervous talking about that stuff
Angeline,
here because I
the
know how
stuff
you
you
feel
shared
about
was.
it, but but it's
Don't worry about
whatever.
it.
It is what it is.
It was actually very and Rogue as well. By the way, Ren Rogue, Angeline Joy. You both share things that kind of enlighten me.
Ouch.
I gotta say. Yeah.
I'm so curious where you are. It's all the
Sharing data
noise.
points. It's important.
Okay.
You're
It's
both
how we'll figure
very,
it out.
very intelligent women, and the host is also very cool.
He's a very intelligent
Oh.
woman too.
Stop.
Yeah.
I'm just cool. I'll take cool. I hardly ever get cool. So y'all could
Okay.
be
Hey,
intelligent tonight, and I'll be cool.
see y'all.
All right. Good night.
Okay. Take care.
Hey, bye.
Night.
Oh,
My
yeah.
comedy reactions are still in play.
Oh. I think all of mine are
That's
shutting
okay.
down.
It's
I'm gonna get some sleep, but I will be out tomorrow
oh,
at the usual time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m.
it's
Pacific. So
Saturday. I might
I
be
can
around. We'll
go
see.
pretty long. I can do it again tomorrow. I don't have a cutoff time. You
All right.
too,
Well, see you later.
Bex. Maybe we can watch something this weekend. I have the next 2 days off, so if we could work it in. All right, I think that's truly is all I have. I'm running on fumes right now, but I'm glad. This is a good night. I want the conversations we've been having the last few days. I feel like the panel, whatever the channel's being taken to the next level, and I would love to keep that going. We really are getting deeper and wilder, and we're moving into territory that I think is new and kind of where I was headed for from the beginning without realizing it. So I'd love to keep that going. So I think if we just keep doing what we've been doing and just do more of it, it'll get there. So thank all of you. Um, oh, okay, cool. I think I'm delirious from sleep, like sleep deprivation, and I'm probably just babbling right now. So I'm just gonna shut up and go to bed. Thank you all. I will be out tomorrow at the daytime.